Hey, another one of these.
Hey, the Electric Bastards return again.
We're going to talk about our old days at high school and elementary school and middle school again. Just
And
for
beyond.
even maybe even in the womb. Who knows?
Yeah, I got some great stories from then.
I don't know if that's funny. All right. Anyway,
Yeah, I scored.
anyway, so like the first, we have a list here, of course. So I thought I'd just get started with one of them. This was like fourth grade at Lawson Elementary.
Where
I remember-
everyone's a friend.
That's what we're going to talk about here shortly. I remember like the final day of school. The principal, Henkenius, ugh, it's such a horrible name.
It's such like a principal name.
It is very. She had the entire school clutch each other's hands, and we all hugged the school goodbye. That was the thing we had to do. And it's just so gross. It's something. Why would you do that? Like, that's just an awful thing to have children do.
She was just trying to start a cult.
Pretty much. And I remember the funny thing, too, is that same day, the only fun time is we all got to have our recess party, and everybody was excited. Like, everybody was having fun, dancing around, playing around. I remember me and my two friends at the time, David and Marty, we were doing the Buff Bagwell dance from when he used to do his entrances in WCW. So that's what we were doing. That was our celebration. And I remember like the following year, the very first day of school in fifth grade, we had the same party, but like nobody was excited at all.
It was lame without booze.
Pretty much. Once the chips and dip are gone, there's no fun.
Right, and like, they only bring like the store brand Sun Chips.
Yep.
Fitzgerald took most of the dip.
With no chips, just dip.
Just a handful of dip, like.
Just a cup. Just cupped it
Yep.
with his big old paw.
The exact same way he eats soup.
So yeah, you remember the theme song. I don't remember it. I think I kind of blocked that out of my head.
I just remembered like the ending line, which is that whole Lawson where everyone's a friend. Like it was like set to the tune of Yankee Doodle Dandy. I remember that. I couldn't tell you like the rest of the lyrics otherwise, but it was definitely like a form of brainwashing.
Very much so. It sounds like it.
Like everybody had to go and like sing about how great Lawson Elementary was.
Well, yeah, we had to hug it too, so it must have been fantastic.
I mean, it was no Wallace, so.
I didn't spend a whole lot of time in Wallace. I remember it was like between, I don't know, second and third grade or something like that. I used to go to the summer daycare. It used to had a specific name at Johnston. And we always had different places that we'd go, but the one of them was at Wallace. And that year, we actually, like, all the people that watched over the kids were like high school students. I remember one time we all got to do a softball team. So like half the group was one team, half the group was the other. The teams were like, we were the Cowbells, and the other team was the Cumazines.
Okay.
Right? And then one of the girls, it was pretty cool actually, one of the girls made tie-dye shirts, like all by hand, and she made one for everybody.
That's chill.
Right? It was pretty sweet. But that's when we like used to, there's that baseball field in the back of Wallace, and that's where we all played. I remember like one of the high school students hit the ball so hard that it went all the way across the field and hit a car.
Yeah, we used to get into some mischief behind that school.
Yeah, well, we have that one video, basic training. That's where that was.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else we did there though.
I mean, aside from like just general tomfoolery and
Yeah.
stuff, like there's a lot of crap that we did that we didn't film, but like one thing that sticks out to me is I just remember this kid Bryce. You remember Bryce, right?
Yeah. I
It's
just
probably
remember
the reason why you hate the name Bryce so much.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, one of the things that he would always do, like, because it was weird, because, like, I went to school at Lawson first, but then, like, the second half of elementary, I went to Wallace. And I remember being on, like, the playground out behind Wallace. And, like, all the time, Bryce would be, like, running around with a sweater over his head, right?
Yeah.
And he would, like, just be, like, taking the sleeves of the sweater and, like, doing this under his chin, right? Just crossing the sleeves of the sweater and just screaming, like, ah!
Okay.
Like, it was just the weirdest thing ever. It was like he was trying to out Jeff. But he was trying too hard.
Well,
you know what I mean?
if your name is Bryce, you're just going to fail automatically.
Bryce is, like, watching this from, like, his, like, 6-figure job going, like, you bastards.
I'll show you who's Jeff. Let's see. What is Sparrow pills?
Oh, that was my mom. When I was in high school, I stopped giving a fuck.
Yeah.
And just like stopped like doing homework and shit. And it was mostly just like I just didn't feel like like
Just putting in the effort.
yeah, I just didn't feel like putting in the effort. I was kind of like cynical about it at that point.
Uh-huh.
But parents gonna parent, and they're gonna be all like paranoid and stuff. And my mom found like this little box of mints that I had gotten from like a Sbarro, and she thought that they were like fucking pills.
She
And
just thought
she
Altoids.
just
She thought Altoids were like alprazolam.
She just jumped to the conclusion that like the reason that I was doing bad in school was because I was on drugs and I was hiding them in the Sbarro mint box. And I was like, no, those are mints. And then she's like, if you're lying to me, I'm going to be very upset. And I was like, try one. And she did.
This Percocet tastes familiar to peppermint.
I mean, that was lucky for me. But no, they were mints. I was a good boy back then. I just didn't do my homework.
Yeah, and then they're at Sparrow. I think I might have seen him work there, but I remember you said you had seen him more, which was Trevor.
Yeah, Trevor was...
yeah, he worked there. He was a goth kid.
He was like a weird goth kid, though, because like he never had like, like he always had buzzed hair. Right?
For a long time. At that point, he started growing his hair out.
It might have been after I left Johnston.
Okay, yeah,
like,
yeah.
I always remember him having like, the really, really short buzzed
He had the
hair.
military cut, and then he went back to that because he became a Marine after that.
Yeah.
High school.
I like to imagine going through basic training still wearing fishnets. Because that was the thing, was like he had that job at Sbarro, and like he was always wearing fishnets while he was working at Sbarro.
It was a demand. Like he had to wear those at work.
Yep, like he wouldn't go without them. He felt naked without them.
This pepperoni pizza won't be as good if I don't touch them with my nets, my finger nets.
Yep.
So the other story. So it's oddly still around, but Skate North, which is now Skateland, used to be the old like skating rink. It was like the old school one, like back in the 70s, and nobody wanted to go there anymore because now we have Skate 2000.
Yeah.
Which doesn't date the place at all.
Skating for the new millennium.
Right, so like it was actually a pretty cool place. Like it was all brand new. It had like an indoor soccer stadium next to it. Everything was newer and nicer. So it just was all around better. I remember one time I was there with some friends, and for some reason I felt very confident and just very bossy that day, I guess. I don't know what else to describe it. Very ballsy. So I ran up to this. I was probably like in the 7th grade or something like that. So I was probably like, I don't know, like 5'2", maybe 5 foot, maybe. And I started picking a fight with a senior from high school. I don't know why. Like I just started running into him on purpose and busting into him. He was like twice my size. But for some reason, I just kept wanting to fuck with him. And eventually, I chest bumped him right in the crotch, basically. Like, I was like, you want to fucking fight, motherfucker? And, like, he was wanting to fight me, but his 2 ladies that he had with him were like, no, don't fight him. And then he started going away, he started backing off because he was listening to his friends. I started calling him a bitch because he was listening to his ladies.
Yeah, listen to your women, gay lord.
Don't take the logical way out, man.
Red pill.
I also remember this too. So 9/11 for us happened in like the 7th grade. And I remember getting to Mr. Snyder's class. Like right before I went to Mr. Snyder's class, this lady had told my teacher, oh yeah, New York got attacked. And we're like, what? And then all of a sudden, like, they had to stop class, essentially. We brought out the TV on the wheels.
Yep.
And we watched CNN for about 30 minutes. And we watched the whole thing unfold where, we saw the planes hit and everybody was talking about it. And I swear I've heard people talk about, like, the conspiracy of, like, there were 2 explosions. And I almost kind of swear I kind of remember that, too. Like, they said that they saw that the plane hit, then they heard another explosion. Kind of vaguely recall that, but it's one of those kind of the Mandela effect where it's like you kind of think you remember, but you're not sure if you do or not.
Yeah, there's like this show Brain Games that talks about like how just like even like hearing a conflicting version of the story can like change the way that you remember it.
Alter your perception of your memory.
Basically, it basically goes out to like eyewitness testimony basically means nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pixar didn't happen.
So that was kind of the gross thing. Like looking back on it, we watched CNN for 30 minutes and like, okay, back to social studies now. It's like, dude, like our country just got attacked and 3,000 people died. It's like, this is like the worst thing to happen since Pearl Harbor. It's like, let's just go back to social studies. Let's talk about Vietnam.
It seems like, pretty good grounds for an early dismissal.
Right? My ex-wife, she lived in Mount Pleasant, and apparently they have an ammunition plant there, and that's why they had to go early out, just in case of whatever. And I remember there were guards outside of Camp Dodge too, so like everybody was on high alert then because we didn't know what was going to happen. Like there was going to be more. Are they gonna take over the nuclear testing site? It's like what's going to happen? But it turned out nothing really happened other than that. But it's still freaky.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking back, it's like we should really kind of stop school for that one.
No, Johnston was like one of those districts that would like never like give you like early outs or like cancel school no matter what.
It was really hard. Like we had our early Wednesdays every other Wednesday, which only a couple hours, and then snow days were super rare.
Yeah.
Like it had to have been like a full-on blizzard with a tornado and a hurricane at the same time for us to get out.
Yeah, like literally every district in Iowa would get like snow days, but they'd still make us go.
Right. And then I just don't understand the point because like when you have those extra days, I think the farthest you could go out was June 4th. And between like May 29th to June 4th, the whole school's doing absolutely nothing. Like, we're all just sitting there wasting time because we don't want to be here anymore. We're not going to do anything. The teachers don't want to be there. They're not going to spend any extra time doing more than they have to. So we're all just sitting around waiting for the day to end. So it's like he just might as well just let us go home.
Yep.
So, that was always a pain in the ass.
It was really like like there was a gag on The Simpsons one time where Bart was like listening to the school closings during a blizzard. And they were announcing the school closings on the radio, and they kept on like almost saying Springfield Elementary, but like it would always be like something else.
Yeah.
And then like Springfield Elementary was still open.
Yeah. Not even a too early, late. It was like, no, fully open.
Like the middle school and the high school both got snow days, but elementary stayed open just because Bart wanted it to be closed.
Yeah, you weren't there when this happened, but I don't know if it was like sophomore, junior year. I think it's sophomore year. One of towards the end of the school year, I guess some of the seniors had a prank of like airing out all the school bus tires. Like they didn't slash the tires like they should have. Like they just let out the air. So it took like 2 hours for like the school to like gather it up and be like, oh okay, we're picking you up 2 hours late. And I remember like me, Tyler, and some kid who lived across the street. We all watched Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back before school. Like that's what we all did.
It's a great way to prepare for the day.
Right? And the other kid had never seen it, so like that was like his first venture.
It's kind of weird how like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is so many people's first Jay and Silent Bob movie.
Right? I think that might have been first, but I think I watched Mallrats before that.
Mallrats was the first that I ever saw.
And then, yeah, probably Jay and Silent Bob after that, then Clerks, then Chasing Amy, which is probably actually my favorite out of all of that View Askew universe.
Which is weird because like a lot of people don't like Chasing Amy.
I love that movie. I think
it's a good movie.
I think it's really good because they're all good. But I actually kind of like all the character development in that movie. It's like a very kind of emotionally relationship deep kind of movie where, to get off topic, but I like that movie just because everybody is flawed, but you also see their wrong side and you see their good side. Like you understand Ben Affleck's character, but you also see his negative side. And then you understand his friend, was it Banksy? Or is it the other guy?
I'm trying to remember the name now.
I can't remember, but it's that dude from My Name Is Earl. Dude.
Yeah, Jason Lee.
Yeah, so his character, you could see his negative side, but you also see his positive, and then also you see Amy's positive and negative. So it's like everybody is right and wrong at the same time, and it's like that's kind of like I appreciate that about that movie, and then. I think it's also when Silent Bob finally speaks, that's probably his best monologue is in that movie.
Yeah, I just remember like because I've always had like this thing for Joey Lauren Adams.
Yeah.
Right. Like mainly it's her voice. Right. Like I really enjoy her voice, but like back when we were in school and stuff, when we were kids. We didn't have Pornhub or like X videos or.
No, we had to work at finding our porn.
We had to, we had to get creative to find our spank material.
Yeah. It's like you had to rent a B-grade horror movie, just maybe some boobs might come in.
Well, like I had this TV that like had a VCR built into it, and I had a copy of Mallrats on VHS.
So you paused it.
I would just pause during that part where like Joey Lauren Adams is like trying on clothes and like Silent Bob crashes through the fucking
the wall. Yeah.
Right? And I would just like pause it during the part where you could see her tits.
Yeah. I did the same thing with Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But not the moment you think of. It's not the pool scene with Phoebe Cates. It was the scene with Jennifer Jason Leigh when she has sex with that greasy dude in the pool house. But there's that one shot where she's like laying naked on the couch, and that was my holy grail.
Your sexual awakening.
Yeah.
I also used to. I had figured out that like if you had your like PlayStation like the original classic PlayStation, right? If you like opened up the disc tray while it was on a loading screen, it would just sit on that loading screen until you close the disc tray.
Okay.
And so, like, I would also like do that with like the SmackDown games whenever it would show Michelle McCool or
Oh, more like the Titantron video?
no, just like the loading screens would just have like pictures of like different wrestlers, but
okay.
like sometimes it would show the ladies. Right?
Yeah.
And they dressed very provocatively, and so I'd be like, well, it's better than the Sears catalog.
Well, I remember I got to rent Playboy the video game on Xbox, and I used that for one of my my spank sessions.
Yeah. BMX Triple X.
I think I remember Torrance playing that, actually.
I do remember Torrance playing that, but he was like playing it legitimately.
He wanted to play the BMX part.
Yeah.
Speaking of porn, so like, I was lucky in my household because for some reason my mom had a bunch of like Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues, which were like okay. But then I kept digging because she had all these magazines. Like, she had a lot of celebrity magazines and stuff with Madonna in them and stuff. And then I kept looking. All of a sudden, I found all these Playboys. So I got all those. Like, the Drew Barrymore issue is probably my favorite. And then, lo and behold, I kept... Because she was at work and my stepdad was at work. So I would, like, snoop. Because I was a horny little teenager. I was like, what else can I find in this house? There's got to be more. Oh, it turns out there's like 2 porn VHS tapes under the bed, so I watched those too. And I remember like my vague memories. I wish I could watch it again just for like if I could like recall what I was seeing. The scenes I remember, the funniest one is this Christmas one because it was like a compilation of scenes. It wasn't like a story or anything like that. It was just like a weird compilation of like best of scenes or something like that.
Yeah.
And there was this one with like, it was Christmas based, and there was like this little elf midget dude, and this big old blonde chick with big old boobies, and they were like sitting on a couch in this very like black room, like there was nothing around it except for darkness in their couch and like a table, and like they were like talking about something, and like the little elf guy created this little machine that could create any toy that he wanted. Like, it would just pop out of nowhere. And for some reason, they just started fucking after that. Like, they didn't even like, oh, why don't you create a double-sided dildo or create something? No, they just, I'll create, like, this little, like, Tonka truck, and now we're going to fuck.
Yeah, it seems like a missed opportunity.
Right? It seems like there's something missing there. But the only thing I remember besides that was, like, he was doing her doggy style, and he had just the most bored look on his fucking face. Like, he was just kind of like, this is my life.
Yeah, it's like throwing a candy cane down the hallway.
But that was one of the scenes. I remember the other scene was this chick was like, pleasuring herself in the bed, and then this dude steps in, and he's like, "Oh, where's Bill?" And she's like, "Oh, he's out drinking with his buddies," and he's like, "Oh, you want me to give you a hand?" And then they just start fucking. So that was the things I remember. And I remember this other part too, where I remember at the end, like they jizz on the woman or whatever, and I didn't understand what that was yet. So I'm like, oh, why are they peeing on her, man? Like that's fucked up. It's all sparkly.
Oh, I get it. It's Christmas.
But yeah, so that was like my foray into the adult world. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, you really had to work for finding adult content back then. I remember even in high school, like there were guys talking in class of like, dude, I found this site with free porn. Because like you couldn't get that back then. You always had to pay for it. Like you could go on like xxx.com and maybe see some like dirty photos and maybe some preview photos, but you had to pay for the good stuff.
Yeah, and it would always take like 5 minutes to download just like a JPEG.
Yeah. It would just kind of like gradually just chop down.
See, I would like basically like use Saturday Night Live as a pretense to stay up later than my parents.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they'd go to bed, I'd switch the channel over to Cinemax and watch the softcore shit.
I spent the night with a friend. We probably watched about a good 3-4 hours of that stuff, and like we realized at that point, it's like, man, porn can get boring.
Right.
It's like it happens. But yeah, it was like back in the time where like you watch like bedtime stories, which is like the show on Cinemax.
I remember this one that always made me laugh, where it was like, it was this guy, and his wife was like going away on a business trip or something like that. And so like he was all like, well, fuck, I'm horny. So like he bangs the shit out of like his maid or whatever, like the entire time the wife's gone, right?
Uh-huh.
But then like the wife is coming back home, and she says that she knows that she's been leaving him alone a lot, but she's bringing back a surprise and shit, right? And so like he's thinking, oh, she's gonna bring back another lady to do it with and shit,
Uh-huh.
right? So he like takes a bunch of fucking like what's the pill, the blue pill,
Viagra?
yeah, Viagra. He takes a bunch of that, right? And then like she's getting home, and he's like waiting for her with his big Viagra boner and everything, right? Just butt booty naked except for his socks.
Ugh,
right?
gross.
Just waiting around the corner, right? And as soon as she opens the door, he like jumps out like, ha ha, right? With dick swinging and everything, right? And then she like is standing there in the door with her mother.
That's actually pretty funny.
Right? And it's like, why would you frame that as a surprise? Like, I'm going to be all like, yay, your mother. But, like, porno be weird.
It can be. So the one below that, you have a story about that.
Yeah, the Game Informer thing. Yeah, so, like, this wasn't, like, when I was a kid, but, like, this was just out of high school. But I used to, have a subscription to Game Informer magazine. And, I would get it every month, and, it came one month, and I go to open it, it's like, just, chilling there, and this disc falls out. Right? I'm just like, oh, cool, a demo disc. Right.
With free games.
All right.
I get to play 5 minutes of Blood Wake.
Yeah. But then I look at it, and it's not a demo disc. I mean, I suppose you could say it was a demo disc. I mean,
yeah.
Something was being demonstrated, but it certainly wasn't Soul Reaver 2. No, it was like this DVD of like it was a porno DVD, but it was all specifically threesome scenes from, I would guess, the late 80s and early 90s, right?
On a DVD.
Yeah, like
it must have been like a retro compilation.
Yeah, something like that, because like it was just a bunch of scenes without context.
Was it like an official DVD, or was it burned?
If I remember right, it was like, it had like an official looking label or something on it. But it was just weird because it was just this loose DVD in the magazine.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like held in there by anything. It's just, it just somehow wound up.
It's like some guy act like he was like, the boss came by and he just put it in there to hide it, and then he forgot about it.
Yeah, it just
got wrapped up.
But
okay,
yeah,
fine.
Yeah, it was just like this DVD, and it had like 30 or so three-way scenes. And,
holy shit!
Like every possible combination that you could think of. There was like man, woman, 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 man, 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 woman. Right? Like literally, there was something for everybody on this.
Dog, cat.
Yeah, I mean, like, literally, just, like, anything that you could possibly want was on there as long as, like, where you were into people with 90s haircuts. Um, but, yeah, it was just, like, a really, really weird thing to have, like, come out of your Game Informer magazine,
Turtle,
like,
tortoise, snapper.
yeah. Rock, paper, scissors. Larry, Curly, Moe.
Um, oh yeah, Ashley. So there was a girl named Ashley. She was pretty cute. She was short.
Yeah, she was, she was a good-looking girl and everything. Not really my type, and I know that sounds like sour grapes to anybody listening, but like I I've never really been like super into blondes. Like,
Yeah, I know.
I'm more of like a like I really dig redheads, uh, but like like those dark redheads, like not the Pippi Longstocking,
Yeah, not
type.
the full-on gingers.
Yeah, or brunettes. Like I tend to like darker haired women. She was like this chick was blonde, cute. I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't have like
Yeah.
gone for it, but like it's not as though I was like, oh, I gotta get with her because she's the lead cheerleader.
Yeah.
She was the blonde cheerleader, daddy's girl, parents have money type girl.
Yeah.
Not that she was like a horribly mean person or anything.
No,
like
in
that.
fact,
She
I was
was,
just about to preface this. Like, I remember one time she really surprised all of us. Like, we were all kind of shocked at one point because we were all naming off all these bands we liked or something like that, or talking about metal.
yeah.
I remember she threw out the name Slipknot or Rob Zombie, and we were like, "What? You know who they are?"
Right? Yeah, it was surprising, but we were dumbass,
Yeah.
kids and shit. But like, she had the look of like, that kind of girl from those movies, but she wasn't like, she wasn't like, a mean girl or anything.
No,
like
she
that.
wasn't.
Just,
We never really had that. Like, that was kind of the thing about Johnston is like,
yeah.
there were asshole guys, but they were never like, we were never like super cliquey where like everybody was separated in their own group. It was largely pretty like social in general.
Yeah. So, like, I again, want to preface this that, like, she wasn't really my type. Wouldn't have said no, but, like, it's not like I was into her or anything like that. But, like, we were playing basketball one time in gym class because we had gym class together. And for some reason, she had wound up, like, basically guarding me. Right, so like she's trying to like keep me from getting the ball. I'm trying to keep her from getting the ball and whatnot. And we both went for the same rebound, but she was closer to the hoop, and I was behind her. And we both jump up for this ball as it's like bouncing off the rim and coming towards us. I'm taller, so I get the ball, right? But as we're in the air, she had jumped up into the air, but the way that she pushed off the ground, she kind of like, came up somewhat backwards.
Okay.
And her ass bumped like right into my crotch, right? And the thing is that like when you're a guy, for any ladies listening to this, guys will understand exactly what I'm talking about. When you jump up into the air and you start to come back to the ground after like gravity takes effect, certain things tend to, flop upwards, right? So as she like, bumped into my crotch and everything, I was, on the down, I was free falling at this point. But like, my wang had, flopped upwards, because
Air's
force.
pushing up.
Yeah, centrifugal force or whatever. I don't know the science behind it. It wasn't a boner, I swear. I was soft. Right? She could tell you.
But it didn't matter.
But it didn't matter because, like, her ass made contact with my crotch, right? And, like, as I'm falling, it just, like, credit card swiped right through the ass cheeks. right?
You made a charge.
Yeah, I made a charge. And she was super bummed out about it.
That's one way to put it.
Right? Like, you know, because, like, it's understandable.
Yeah.
She's a high school girl, you know. She's just be like, ew, you know, because, like, you know, she felt it. And,
Credit denied.
Yeah, credit denied. With prejudice. Your score is not high enough, sir. Oh man, yeah, no, like she was super like not happy about that, and I can't blame her or anything like that. But like, you know, it didn't wind up being that big of a deal because obviously it's not like I tried to do it or anything like that.
But that's is the equivalent of like if a schnackle.
Yeah, just,
like if she rubbed up on us.
Yeah, you know, it's just like, you know, I'm not sure if she was like, you know, doing anything with guys at that point or not, but
well,
just
I don't know.
like probably not, you know, like, but just, you know, like, you know, imagine being like, you know, some girl and like, you know, one of the weirdos, like you get your butt just like, you know, fucking credit card swiped, right? And it's one of the weirdos at your school, you know. Like it's not even one of like, you know, the hot jock boys or nothing like that. It's
one of the weird kids.
It's Brandon.
My only story about her was kind of the opposite. I don't know why. I don't know if she was like fucking with me or something like that. I don't know what was going on. So like I was, instead of playing football, I was like the football manager. I would get water and just do all this other kind of stuff. And we were heading over to, I think, Mason City. I don't know why the fuck we played Mason City. It's like 2 hours away. But like we were all on the bus, the whole team, me and the cheerleaders. We were on there too. And I was sitting next to Ryan, who probably just shouldn't even been on the team, really. But he was sitting next to me, and like he was. It was actually good that he had the window, because like I was sitting next to the aisle, and like not the seat next to me, but the seat diagonally behind me. So if I just looked left, you know, just behind me, I would have noticed. And like it was her and Justina. Her and Justina, who was like, I think I mentioned the last podcast. Justina was like the 10.
Yeah, Justina was like, she was the blonde girl that I would have been like, yeah.
Yeah, that was every guy in our graduating class. She was
the girl that like every single dude wanted.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was her and Ashley and Justina, and they were in their nice little, you know, cheerleader outfits, and I was just sitting there being a geek, and we were talking. I can't remember what we were talking about, but Ashley kept kind of being somewhat flirtatious. And I don't remember like what was actually being said, but she kind of had this kind of like sexy-eyed stare, like she kind of like just give me kind of the not the fuck me eyes, but just kind of like the level below it, you know, like the feel me up eyes, I guess. I don't know.
Take me out to see the Johnny Depp, Willy Wonka, and the Chocolate Factory eyes.
That too. So, I remember she was eating a potato chip, and she like looked at me very like sexually as she chomped into one of her Fritos or whatever the fuck.
Once you pop, the fun don't stop.
But it was so weird, and I remember like I was like so confused. I was like, what? And I remember like Ashley and Justina like looking at each other, giggling and everything, and I'm like, does she like me or are they fucking with me? I don't know what's going on. And I never really got to find out. And then that same year, another girl that I really liked, named Alexa, she like blew me a kiss one time during a football game, like, hey Cal, and then blew me a kiss. And I didn't even respond because I'm like, I'm one of those people. I still kind of have this problem where if I'm not expecting a social interaction and someone gives me a social interaction, I just don't really respond because I don't have that. Oh, I got to snap back into social interaction mode. I just kind of like it still kind of stays off.
Well, that and just like, you know, when you're younger like that, like if you don't have like a dad who was like super smooth and like knew how to like read women and stuff, or like an older brother or something like that like
I didn't have any of that at all.
That teaches you like how to read signals and stuff, you don't know.
No.
Like,
I didn't have anything. My
like,
mom.
I'm sure that we would have done a lot better if we
had somebody teaching us.
Well, if we could like just go back and like relive,
with our current knowledge.
Yeah,
it'd
like
be way different.
Yeah, like we would have scored like at least a couple more times.
I was actually quite surprised by the time school ended for high school for me, because I was like, back then I lost my virginity like junior year, and I swore at that time, I'm like, I'm going to get like 3 girls most. Like, that's going to be my life. I'll be married by the time I get to my 3rd. And it turned out that I got to my 3rd by the time I graduated. So I already kind of broke the record. Good thing, but, still at the same time, it was like, what?
I mean, it's just like, do what you gotta do,
Right.
But yeah, that Ashley girl, that's the same girl that was in that other story that
the cats.
told about Jeff and the magic wand in the previous video. So if
Jeff
you haven't seen that one,
Jeff and the magic wand. That sounds like a great sitcom.
It does. No, what we need to do now is we need to just write like a Harry Potter style book about Jeff.
Yeah. Right.
Just Jeff and the magic wand.
Well, and then losing my virginity in junior year, I can tell about that story a little bit. So there was like this girl named Crystal. That's all I got to say about her, pretty much. But anyway, like I was taking creative.
I mean, she tried.
I guess. I was taking what I could get at that point. So, she wasn't awful, but she was definitely like in the lower tier. So like I was taking creative writing, and she sat in front of me. I sat in the back of the room, and she sat right in front of me. And we started sharing notes back and forth, and she kind of stacked like, "Oh, I like you," and all this kind of shit. So we exchanged numbers, and we texted. This is back in the days where texting was like, if you wanted to write the word cat, it was like 22222, what
Yeah,
like
there was
8
no
8.
screen with a keyboard with the letters.
Nothing.
It was like
you
you had to type everything with the number pad.
Yep. So I was doing that back then with flip phones. And I remember like we were like on our 2nd day of being together officially, and she came over after school. I wanted to show her nothing but trouble, but it was locked in my parents' room, so I couldn't bring it out. So I brought out American Psycho. And we watched that movie.
How romantic.
Right? And it turned out it was romantic enough, because I lost my virginity, all thanks to Patrick Bateman.
Oh, she really must have liked Phil Collins.
Studio. So I lost my virginity due to the American Psycho. And then a week later approximately, it was Friday to Friday, she calls me right before school, and she goes, "Cal, it's over," and hangs up. I'm like, fucking what? Now, that was a bit of a shocker. And then I go to school, and she like moves her chair all the way to the front of the class for some reason. Probably just to like get away from me, to avoid the tension, I guess. But so that was all strange. And then I never like dealt with the pain of that breakup. So like I kind of just held it in. And it was kind of like if like anybody was going to fuck with me, that was kind of like the wrong thing to do. And unfortunately someone did fuck with me.
Yeah.
Joshua was his name. And he was always kind of a dickhead. Never like overtly like bullying, but he was just, whenever he had the chance to talk to me, he was just kind of this bad attitude.
Josh is just kind of have a bad reputation.
He was a Joshua too, so it wasn't even just a Josh.
Like, that's even worse.
Right? So I was in the library with a computer, and I saw this class coming, but I wasn't sure what they were doing. And all of a sudden he's like, "Get out of my computer, get out of the chair so I can use my computer." and he just was being a total dick about it. So I kind of flipped on him a little bit, and I yelled at him, and went to the other side of the library, and I could clearly, it wasn't even like they were even trying to hide it. I could clearly hear him and his friend talking shit about me on the other side of the library, and I was like, fuck this shit, I'm not taking that. So I storm all the way to the other end where he's sitting. I said, if you're going to talk shit about me one more time, I'm going to bash your face in. And unfortunately, he said the exact wrong thing. He just goes, do it. And I'm like, all right. So I, wind up my fist and I knock him right in his cheek. He falls to the ground, face first. I get on top of him and put him in like a Tasmanian chokehold. And I just like choke him the fuck out. He wasn't even responding. And the teacher, I can't remember his name, he was like on top of me. He's like, can you somebody help me? And I eventually get off of him. And the kid, like the teacher's on his knees still, and I'm standing up, and I'm like, I'm so freaking mad. And he's like, I start yelling at him. I was like, you want to fucking fight too? He's like, bring it on. And thankfully, what's his name? Mr. Scannell, he was a good guy. He pulled me back. I think he got kind of pissed off at that teacher for kind of egging me on to fight him back. But he kind of pulled me away, and that whole kind of thing just... I had to talk to the cops about that and everything, too. It was pretty shitty. But, yeah.
No one ever likes having to talk to the cops.
No. And I had gotten into fights before, but all of a sudden I got to talk to the cops about this one.
Yeah, I never really got into any, fist fights.
Oh, I got into one every year.
Yeah, you did get into quite a few scraps, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah, because this wasn't in Johnston, but, I used to get, my first time in school was at Des Moines Christian School, so it was a private school. Then I went to Sarah Montessori, which is another private school, which had 48 kids tops. Even though Des Moines Christian had a lot of kids, it was still pretty tight-knit because it was always the same kids all the time. And it was, still pretty communicative. So there was really, no bullying much because the separation between everybody is so thin. Mm-hmm. Where I finally went to Urbandale, and I was really bullied then because I was a weird, emotional little kid. So I got bullied pretty quickly, and I realized... It's if you just fight back, they'll leave you alone. And that turned out to be pretty true. It's if you just beat the shit out of that bully, they'll leave you alone. Unfortunately, the problem was with Johnston, all the other, when you beat someone up, for some reason, some other guy just decides to step up because he thinks he's hot shit. So he's going to think, oh, he's not going to fight me, or I'm going to kick his ass if he does that to me. So I had to fight someone off every year because they just didn't learn their lesson. They didn't learn from the mistake of the other person.
And he didn't wind up getting a championship belt until years later.
I had to earn it. It was a delayed fuse.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Speaking of championship belts, I remember... did I talk about... how I used to be friends with that kid Sean back in the day?
Not on the podcast here, okay. So go ahead.
So savvy viewers may have noticed that we occasionally make reference to pro wrestling and stuff like that in our videos. But what got me into that originally as a kid was I had this friend Sean. You remember him?
Vaguely, you've taught. I always have to look at a picture.
Yeah, you didn't I don't think that you ever really interacted with him, but I'm sure that you we rode the same bus and everything. But he was my best friend early on in elementary school, which is funny because we didn't get along at all for the first day either. It's weird. The first day we met, we hated each other's guts. We just had that energy. I got on the bus, he was already on there. We locked eyes, and we were just motherfucker, right? Without even saying a word, we just hated each other's guts. But by the end of the day, we were best friends. But I would always go over to his house because, like, I didn't have any video games, but his family, as far as I was concerned, his family was loaded because he had, like, both Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, right? Also, they had, like, one of those little, like, arcade basketball games in their basement. So I was just like, yeah, these guys are rich, right? But I remember I would go over there, and one of the games that we would always play was that WWF game, which I can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
You'll probably know this one.
Yeah.
But it was the one where it was like the graphics were all digitized images.
WrestleMania, the arcade game.
Yeah, that's probably it. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, the Undertaker.
It was
like,
very kind of
like a tombs.
Yeah, it was very kind of half wrestling, half Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, sort of like that. But we would play that all the time, and like, you know, I thought that was cool. And he's all like, yeah, it's, you know, WWF, and I didn't realize that was a thing at the time. So he was actually the person that introduced me to the world of professional wrestling, right? And, you know, again, me thinking like, you know, that his family was loaded and everything, you know, because they were like, you know, they were better off financially than my family was, obviously.
Obviously, if you're going to have some sort of like basketball arcade game in your basement,
yeah,
you're doing pretty decent.
But like, I remember one time they got tickets for Monday Night Raw at Vets Auditorium. So you know, they got a ticket for me as well, and so like I got to go see Monday Night Raw with my friend Sean. But like,
this was like '98 Attitude Era.
It would have been Attitude Era. I don't remember exactly what year it was. Like it would have been like, I would have been like, yeah, '98 sounds about right because I probably would have been about like 9 or 10.
Okay. Yeah. It's 97, 98.
Yeah, something like that. But it was funny because, like, you know, they had gotten the tickets, but these tickets were still, like, in the cheap seats, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we were way, way, way up in the nosebleeds, like, kind of in the corner, right? And you could, like, see behind the Titantron and the ramp and everything because of where we were situated. And I remember there was this match going on. It was Goldust and I can't remember who the other guy was, right?
You remember what he looks like?
I remember he was a black guy, but that's it.
Okay.
But they were, you know, fighting in the ring and everything. And at a certain point, like, the fight spilled out of the ring and onto, like, the ramp. And, you know, they were fighting on the ramp and everything and, you know, just kind of, like, you know, working their way up back towards the Titantron. Right?
Which is the entrance.
Yeah, the Titantron is the big old screen where they show, like, you know, the videos of, like, dudes beating each other up and shit. When they
the entrance curtain's underneath it.
Yeah. So, like, that's, you know, where they come out of and, you know, when they're doing their big entrance. So, they're fighting all the way up this ramp and everything, right? And then they get past the curtain. And on this big screen, they're showing the fight still going on. But as soon as they got past this curtain, they stopped fighting and they made a beeline for this craft services table. And they were just like sitting there chilling, drinking coffee and like eating cheese cubes and shit.
So the fight was pre-recorded. Obviously.
Yeah, the fight had been pre-recorded at a certain point. But it was just really funny that, like, you know, my first experience watching pro wrestling live.
It was the veil had already been lifted.
Yeah, just like nobody even had to tell me that it was fake at that point. Like, oh yeah, like, you know, wrestling's fake. Yeah, I saw him eating cheese cubes. So yeah, that's, you know, that's why I associate Goldust with cheese cubes.
That's funny.
Coffee, like, and it was funny too because it was like the little coffee cups.
Yeah.
Right.
The little.
Yeah, because like
the styrofoam.
Yeah, they're having to like hold them with just like their little fingers. It was just so weird to like look up and see them beating the shit out of each other on the screen, and then like look down and they're just like chatting it up
with coffee and cheese cubes.
Right. Just chilling.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was a funny formative experience for me.
I need to tell you about that story.
Oh,
I love that story.
Oh yeah, so this was like after we had you know, started getting the idea of like we're going to like make videos and imitate Jackass, and we're gonna like get super famous doing that because we're
That's how that works.
yeah. So as I recall, the reason that this happened was Ryan and I had come up with this fantastic idea to like walk around out front of the school with our pants around our ankles.
I kind of vaguely remember that.
We're wearing boxers.
Yeah, you weren't naked or anything. You just had your pants at your ankles.
Yeah, but it was still inappropriate according to Mr. Slaughter, and so he gave us a day of in-school suspension. The thing about in-school suspension at Johnston though was that like it was completely unsupervised. They didn't like watch you at all. So they were going to like have us come into school the next day and have to like be just like in the teacher's conference room all day without like anyone supervising us. But they weren't smart and have us like do the sentence that day. We had to do it the next day, so we had time to prepare. So after school, Ryan and I went to the Dollar Tree, and we bought like a bunch of cheap ass candy and soda and shit.
That's a Ryan staple, I guess, when looking back, because we've seen videos like he would always get candy and soda all the fucking time.
Yeah, and like Cheetos and shit like that. And then we both brought our Game Boys in. And so they put us in this in-school suspension room, and they're like, now you think about what you've done, and wag their fingers at us, and left us to our punishment. At which point we spent the whole day while all the other kids were learning, eating junk food, playing Pokemon. So, Johnston teachers be dumb.
So you just sat all day just eating candy, playing Pokemon.
Yeah.
For your in-school suspension.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Why would they do that? That doesn't seem very smart. Like, also, if I would separate you.
That was the other thing is like they literally put us in the same room together, so like
so you can get into more hijinks.
Like because like Ryan brought his link cables, so we were able to
so you can literally play together.
Yeah, we were like trading and like battling each other and shit. Like
the fact that they didn't check.
Like if we hadn't gotten that in-school suspension, it would have taken us at least another week to both complete our collections.
The fact that they didn't check.
Right? Yeah, they didn't check for any of this. Like we didn't bring any school materials. Like our backpacks were full of nothing but like junk food and soda and shit.
That's
and, like,
funny.
Ryan was like grinding Cheetos into the floor. I wasn't, because I was just like, I'm gonna eat this shit.
Yeah, right.
But, like Ryan was literally like taking chips and just like tossing them on the ground and grinding it in.
It's for extra.
Just out of spite.
That's hilarious. It's like they were obviously they had no preparation for what in-school suspension was. It's almost like they did it for the very first time and had no prior planning or knowledge of how to make that happen.
Well, just the fact that even if they had had containment procedures in place, we were particularly troublesome.
Right? Yeah, Slaughter knew who we were pretty early on.
Yeah, Slaughter hated our guts. Because he was
still like to believe that we were the reason he quit.
Yeah. I mean, to some degree, it's kind of like I feel like I should feel bad about it, but I don't.
No, I don't either.
Because he was a dick about it.
He was. But we didn't make it easy on him either, so it's like it is equal.
It's like it's kind of what you get for having the last name Slaughter.
Without the name Sergeant.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but I remember like that time where we did the after school. We were waiting for the buses to come in, and I did that 5-star frog splash on Tyler. Like, I can't remember if I ran and then jumped, or if I just jumped off the trash can. I don't remember what it was, but we filmed it. And then Mr. Slaughter comes out and he's all like, "Oh, you could get hurt." Oh, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, or he like, oh, I just yelled at him. I didn't give a shit. It's like, you don't care about getting hurt. You just don't want to get sued. Like, I remember telling him that to his face, and he just had nothing to say. Because that was true. It's like he didn't care about us getting hurt. He just don't want to get sued or, have some sort of write-up about someone getting injured in front of the school.
It's like, look, if you didn't want us doing frog splashes off the trash cans, then you wouldn't have the trash cans.
That's why they're there.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
But, yeah, silly shit. About this time, I guess. So after freshman year is when you moved.
Yep.
But Matt and I we lived right across from high school. Like, I could see the high school from across the street. Because we lived in this apartment complex, and he lived like 3 buildings down. Mm-hmm. So we were pretty close. We hung out a lot, and then on the good days that summer between freshman and sophomore year, we all recorded, me and Matt recorded what we called Broken Independence. I don't remember where that name came from. I think it was a Matt
thing. It was something Matt pitched, and we just thought it sounded cool and edgy.
Yeah. So we just hung out. That was kind of the time where we like went from doing Jackass stuff to moving on to CKY, where it was a combination of stunts and sketches.
Yeah.
So that was all pretty fun, because I wish we could see the asshole tree, because I vaguely remember having fun with that, but I don't remember what we did.
Yeah, so the asshole tree was basically like, I'm sure that it would be a lot funnier to be able to like actually view it.
Uh-huh.
Just because of how stupid we were.
Yeah.
But the idea was just like, it was supposed to be like this nature documentary, and like I was the host and I was talking about the asshole tree, and I shook the tree and you fell out of it.
I was just yelling at people when they walked by.
Yeah. That would, honestly, we could probably still workshop that.
Yeah, it actually isn't bad to work with. It's still funny.
Like, it would almost be funny to, like, make it so that, like, we like, dress you up as some kind of fruit. Right?
Just like one of those Fruit of the Loom kind of
yeah, where you still have like a human face,
but you just have just a giant group of grapes.
Yeah, and you're just sitting up in this tree like talking shit.
What else did we do? So remember we did something kind of stupid, like the special like Olympics or something like that. I remember we we tried to do the shit stain bandit, where I was gonna like take a shit on the high school track, but I just couldn't get it out. Like, it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And I remember he even tried to like bribe me to get it done. Like, you give me a picture of Ann Nicole Smith naked or something like that. I'll give you a picture of you take a shit on the track. And I just couldn't do it. It wasn't that I didn't want to. I just didn't have a shit.
Yeah, just like
I was dry.
The tank was empty.
So there was that, and I remember that one time where I don't know if I went into there's those huge ice boxes outside of the concession stand at the football field, mm-hmm. and it was empty. So I got inside of it, and I remember I remember Matt opened it up and just pushed his bare ass in it and just farted it and then locked the door.
Oh.
And then there was that one night where it was me, Matt, and some other kid that lived there. We walked all the way over to Hy-Vee and we stole a shopping cart. And we walked it all the way back and we just kept it inside of Matt's garage. And that's where we also kind of stole that idea from CKY, where we put somebody in and then bash it against the curb and then watch them fly.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun.
Like, basically everything in the early days was just stuff that we saw on Jackass or CKY.
Pretty much.
And we thought we were going to be like the next generation of that.
What else did we
Speaking
do?
of Hy-Vee, though, I can't remember if you were there for this or not, but there was the time that I walked into a Hy-Vee in that gorilla suit.
Yeah, because I wore the Darth Vader helmet.
Yeah, uh, but yeah, we walked into Hy-Vee and I had the gorilla suit on and I bought like a bunch of bananas.
Yeah.
And Ryan was there too, and I remember Ryan being there specifically because Ryan couldn't stop doing that laugh, you know, that I'm having more fun than everybody else laugh.
Yeah.
Because like, you know,
I'm the joy of the party laugh.
yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, he did that. I remember he also, I don't know if this is true or not. It probably could have been true. But he said there were cameras there, so they took like a screenshot of the security footage of you walking around wearing the gorilla costume, and then they like put it up somewhere in the employee lounge or something like that just for funsies.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
No, I mean it's like that's not out of the realm of possibility because it is goofy. If you have footage of it, just take a picture and just be like, "Hey, this is funny."
Right. You know, for the memes.
Mm-hmm. What else did we do that summer? That was also going to mention that was the first time I did weed. I tried marijuana for the first time at Matt's. We did it in his garage in the back.
Did you smoke out of his cooler bong?
I don't think we did a bong. Maybe we did, but I think we did out of a pop can.
I just remember being over at his place one time, and like, you know, he had a couple of other friends over, and they had this like igloo cooler, right? And they turned it into a gravity bong.
Yeah, that probably would work pretty well.
It seemed to work pretty well. I didn't partake because they smoked nasty ass ditchweed.
Yeah, that was the problem. That's what happened to me. Is like I did that. And I had a good time. Like I was enjoying myself. I was giggling and laughing. We walked over to Hy-Vee and I got a bunch of pixie sticks, so we could have all those. But I remember like a day or the second day after, my whole body was covered in hives, and I never had that happen before. And it was obviously his shitty ditchweed, because I never smoked it again and never had a problem with that ever again.
Right.
I remember one time we were walking, and there was kind of like some wooded areas in that between the apartment complex and Hy-Vee's, because there was a long trail that would go straight to Hy-Vee, and there were some wooded areas. I remember he had there was a marijuana plant like somewhere in the wooded area, and it didn't look that healthy. It was kind of one of them shitty ones. It was like, yeah, this is what you smoke out of, huh?
Yeah. You know, because this was all like, you know, pre like, you know, legalization.
Oh yeah, this is all straight Reggie and not even good Reggie.
Like back before they even like legalized it in California.
Yeah, this is like all back like during the Nixon days.
Yeah.
The Nixon administration days of marijuana.
Yep, we were on that Gipper policy.
But yeah, it was pretty shitty weed. But what else did we do that summer? Besides, we have the basic training and we have the toys stuff, but I can't remember if we did anything else.
Nothing immediately like jumps out at me because, like, you know, most of what we did was very like, you know, just like on impulse.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this would be funny. Let's try this.
Yeah.
And again, you know, 90% of it was stuff that, you know, had already been done on Jackass or CKY.
Yeah, I remember I think there was some footage of us just fucking around, like we were just hanging around Matt's place, and like you were recording and Matt was doing something, and I think I was playing either like Resident Evil or some video game on his TV with his PlayStation, because I didn't have a PlayStation, so whenever I went to his place, it was like, that was kind of special because I didn't have PlayStation.
Yeah, it was like, you know, what I was talking about earlier with going over to that Sean kid's place to play video games because I didn't have a system at the time. So, like, you know.
Oh, I remember, this wasn't recorded. I remember, like, this was like a pretty crazy thing. So this is like 2003. So this is like back in the days of like when the video games were like, this is SmackDown, Bring on the Pain, or SmackDown Know Your Role. I can't remember whether Shut Your Mouth or something like that. So I remember you said you were pretty damn good. And you hadn't lost a match yet.
Yeah.
I remember like you and I were playing, and I was like really like getting into it because I was really wanting to beat you for the like you. I wanted you to lose for the first time.
Yeah.
And I think I did beat you because kept asking Matt, I was like, how do you reverse? How do you reverse? I remember I think I did it, and I was like, fuck yeah. And I remember that was also the same summer that we all played. I think it was San Andreas that came out by that time.
Yeah.
And then we had Matt was playing, and then he went to the bathroom, and then that's when you like got into the helicopter.
Yeah, but I always had that habit of like whenever somebody was playing GTA, and like because the rule was always with the rotation, whoever's playing gets to play until they die or they get arrested. Like that's the rule, right? It's the same as passing to the left hand side. It's just the unwritten rule of the game. So anytime that somebody was playing and I was waiting for it to be my turn, and they would like pause the game to go to the bathroom or whatever, I would always do some sneaky bullshit where I would either like go out and like unpause the game, drop a grenade down at their feet, and pause the game real quick, or I would like get into a helicopter and like fly way out into the ocean, which is what I did in this case, because he was in the bathroom for a long time.
He was. He took long shits, I guess.
Yeah, he was taking.
I think we were like waiting for quite a while because we wanted to see what was going to happen.
Yeah, we were like sitting there giggling to ourselves, and then like it stopped being funny after a while
because it took too long.
And then it became funny again when. Because like I had flown way out into the ocean to the point where like the
you were off the map.
Like you couldn't see the city like in any direction, and like when you brought up the map, all it shows was ocean.
Yeah, it was like you were so off the map that like the blip was at the corner of the map. So like if you were to swim back, you don't know which way you're facing.
Yeah.
Because you're off the map, you don't know which way is which. So like you could be swimming further in the opposite direction. You wouldn't even know.
Right. But the thing was that like I only paused the game right after hitting triangle so that like he would jump out of the helicopter, right? So when he came back to hit start again, he hit start, and that's when the character jumps out of the fucking helicopter into the ocean. And I was always doing shit like that to people whenever they would like make the mistake of going to the bathroom.
It was hilarious because like he spent like it seemed like 10-15 minutes trying to swim back.
Yeah, he did.
But he was so off the map, like we said, we weren't sure if he was facing the right direction. So
yeah, you couldn't tell because you couldn't like any direction that you looked was just like
ocean.
So
eventually he just decided to give up and just drown himself.
Yep. And then it was my turn.
Well, it should be a rule too. If you're going to be in the bathroom, it's like that's the other person. Especially if you're going to take as long as he did. It's like
right.
That's another person's turn.
Well, he pooped, you lost.
You poop, you lose.
Yep.
Anything else we did that summer? I can't think of anything else.
Let's see.
I remember like I had my my military makeup kit, and we used pretty much all of my black because you and I made. This was the same day I think we shot toys because we Matt had to go somewhere for a bit. So you and I, we used my black military makeup kit and we painted on bandit, bandit masks.
Oh yeah, it was, we were doing that thing where we were busting into Matt's garage to get our stuff back. I don't even remember what it was that we were taking from him.
I don't know.
It was
probably the Pepsi or something.
Yeah, it was. We left something in his garage, and we were gonna steal it back, but we decided we were gonna make a video out of it. I'd forgotten all about that. That's damn.
Yeah, so there's that. I don't think there's really anything else.
Because I remember now that you mentioned it, we did that whole like shot where we were peeking around the corner and shit.
That's the only thing I can remember besides putting on the makeup.
Yeah. I always wanted to go into a bank dressed up like an old timey bank robber,
With the stripe outfit.
With the raccoon mask and the stripe outfit and the big old burlap sack with the money sign on it, right?
Yeah.
And go in there and just make a deposit. And be totally legit about it, just be dressed like a bank robber.
Yeah.
You know? You give them all the information they need and stuff, but just so that they've got, this footage of an old timey bank robber coming in.
I think it's the last thing we'll do. So I was pretty social around middle school, high school. I hung out with the skater kids sometimes. I hung out with the nerds. I was with all the BD naughty kids. But I'd hang out. There was a time where I hung out with all the nerds for a while. That's when I kind of got into Magic the Gathering a little bit. So it was Danny, Clooney, Celia, Nelson, Jeff, Skeens, and Dane. And then you were kind of in and out of it too.
Yeah.
So that was the whole nerd gang.
Yeah, they were sort of my social circle, but I was also sort of a lone wolf.
Yeah. You're dipping your toe outside of the pool from time to time.
Yeah.
That's second. So Danny was the king. He was he took being the king of the nerds pretty seriously.
Well, I mean, he fancied himself the king.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody else took him seriously as
no, we never took him seriously, but he was just okay.
He just kind of you assumed the role, and it wasn't important enough to anybody else to fight him about it.
Yeah, exactly. He was okay, you get to be president, whatever.
But he was just kind of I'm the king nerd around here, and he was very comic book guy-ish.
Yeah. It's
like
if he grew a beard, he'd be the typical 4chan neck beard.
Yeah. I mean, there was cool things about him.
He wasn't a bad guy.
He introduced me to the Harvest Moon games, which I still love to this day. Maybe not the new ones, but
Yeah, Danny wasn't a bad guy. He just kind of took that nerd king role pretty seriously. But he wasn't bad at all. He was pretty nice and friendly. And
yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Still some weirdness, but...
Yeah, the second part.
Because, at a certain point, as boys do, we start to grow up and we start noticing girls. We start trying to get those girls.
Right.
I got one of those girls. And, I started being, real fucking, proud of the fact that I got a girl. And I was bragging about it, I mean, honestly, I could see it being annoying, because I'm all yeah, I got a girlfriend. But Danny... just flat out refused to believe
if I can't get one, you can't get one.
That I had a girlfriend. In fairness, she did go to a different school. He wouldn't know her.
Yeah. Likely story.
And I know what you're thinking.
Likely story.
But no, she wasn't from Canada. She was from Perry. Which is sort of like the Mexican Canada of Iowa. But she was totally real, I swear.
Yeah.
Right? You met her.
Yeah, I did. So you had her back then, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I was...
And she was cute.
Yeah, she kind of a not very nice person in retrospect, but You know, at the time, you know, she let me see her boobs, so I was like,
Yeah.
you know, awesome. Yeah, I'll do whatever. But like Danny just flat out refused to believe that, like, you know, I had a girlfriend, and so I threw like a pudding cup or something at him at lunch.
You have this, Fatso.
Yeah, and it was vanilla, so he got really mad. And from that day on, we didn't get along very well.
Oh man.
So yeah, like
That's funny.
yeah, it's kind of the thing that caused the big rift between me and Danny, which is unfortunate because, you know, like I said, he had introduced me to like the Harvest Moon series of games, and like he'd sold me a rabbit and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there was some cool stuff, but like, you know, dude wouldn't believe I had a girlfriend, so I threw a pudding cup at him.
A vanilla pudding cup.
You know?
Not even butterscotch.
Yeah, I mean, like, it wasn't even like Snack Pack. It was like some shitty, like, dollar store brand.
No wonder he got mad. But,
He liked
yeah.
tapioca.
I remember Clank always made fun of that girlfriend because of how the way she said boobies.
Yeah.
Boobies.
Yeah, she had a bit of a lisp.
Yeah. It was funny. And then that last one, I didn't know anything about that at all.
Yeah, this goes back to, like, Danny kind of fancying himself the king of the nerd table. At one point, he got it into his head that he was going to institute an economy within the nerd clique, which is weird because, again, it wasn't like there wasn't really like that much clickiness or anything like that. Like, more so that he was trying to like force it almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, he decided that he was going to like institute a currency, and like he was gonna use like those little glass beads that they use for like damage counters.
Yeah.
In Magic the Gathering. And
like, how does it like by color, or they all just mean one singular
I think it was
number?
supposed to be like colors were going to be like different denominations.
That's
like,
so weird.
you know.
Like, how, and what are you trading? Like, what is the
I'm
game?
not sure what the I'm fuzzy on the details of like how one was supposed to acquire these, and like, you know, what goods and services they could be traded for.
Right.
But like I do remember that he had specifically come up with the name Chits.
Chits?
Yeah, Chits. He had gotten it from the movie Waterworld.
Ooh.
Right.
What a one to choose.
Right. Yeah. So like he wanted to institute this this nerd exclusive currency called Chits, and it was those glass Magic the Gathering damage counter.
And I'm pretty assuming that nobody else really followed through with that one.
Yeah, no, it never went anywhere, but like, who knows? Maybe he's developed a cryptocurrency since then. Shitcoin.
Shitcoin. That would work, wouldn't it?
We should do that. We should just like make a cryptocurrency, call it Shitcoin, and just have his face be the logo.
Drugs are bad. The only funny story I have vaguely of him is like he very also fancied himself as knowing everything about The Simpsons.
Yep.
He knows everything about The Simpsons. You could ask him any question you want. He doesn't know the answer. But he always had these very stupid ones. He was like, what's the name of the bar in Springfield? And you go, Moe's? He goes, no, it's Moe's Tavern. It's like, oh, for God's sake.
The sign says Moe's.
Right? Oh, but he says Moe's Tavern when he answers the phone. Oh, God.
It's like, yeah, the business is a tavern.
Yeah.
But the business is called Moe's.
Yeah, right? You got on a technicality and not even an official technicality.
Yeah, he was one of those people. He had to school you with his, like, you know, next level Simpsons knowledge.
Mm.
But he didn't know shit about Futurama.
Motherfucker. All right, I think that'll be the end for this one. I had fun.
I did too.
I think we'll have room for one more, which we'll do here whenever.
At some point.
At some point. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and
if not, you can go to hell.
right. You can go to Johnston for all I care, buddy.
Yeah, it's right.
All right.
Where everyone's a friend.
That's what sucks about it. All right. See ya.
Deuces.